Hey guys, I'm here to discuss tort liability. I tell you, to be honest, this is my second recording because I went over my 15 minutes and I was only on case 4 because there is quite a bit to say about this, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to learn more about it. I find it overwhelming and interesting, and I've grown a lot through just this one module. As far as what is tort liability, there were several definitions. I chose this one. It made the most sense to me. Tort is a civil wrongdoing for which a remedy may be obtained, usually in the form of damages. It provides a framework for determining school and agency liability. It's split into two categories: intentional, when the offense committed by the individual intended to do harm to another person, like the threat of battery, actual battery, the defamation, and false imprisonment, where teachers maybe hold students on without against their will. Negligence is the failure to exercise the standard of care that a reasonably prudent person would have exercised in a similar situation. The four elements would be duty, breach of duty, causation, and injury. Examples that spoke to me would be, for example, an injury I could have prevented if I left a sharp object lying around the classroom and a student hurt themselves at recess, or losing a student because I was not properly supervising. If there was an accident that was foreseeable and I did not stop it, those type of things. And I think negligence accounts for a majority of the cases out there. So it's scary, but preventative measures can really help. I was a little unclear on if I was supposed to stick only to the cases in the one article or if we were supposed to actually go out and find some, so I did a little bit of both. I chose a variety, and ones that I had kind of really spoke to my heart, I guess. The first case was the Pierce versus Hearn Independent School District, where the agriculture teacher actually had some of his students at his pig farm working, and had sent the students to go get a tool on the ATV, and they came back, and on the way back one of them had hit a tree and unfortunately did die. And the parents were seeking lawsuit on negligence, and also because they did not have permission to be working there. So as far as I try to look at reactive measures, what would my school district do if it was to happen tomorrow? First of all, I think our parents and the district would seek immediate legal advice. School district would meet with staff and review all of our rules regarding that. Employees would probably be put on paid leave during the investigation, which I think is the right thing to do. Proactively, if I was an administrator, I would prohibit students from working at employees' residence for school-related activities, or obtain, for sure, consent prior to the activity. I think that we could run into this a little bit with College and Career Ready, where we have students out doing job shadowing, things like that. And then train employees annually of tort liability, including different scenarios for us to walk through. This honestly does not happen, and it needs to happen. Ethically, I feel like students should not be working outside of the school for one of our employees' personal gain, first of all. I think it increases the risk of occurrence. But if there is a reasonable situation, then consent should be given and documented for sure. The case 2 really spoke to me because my brother broke his leg on a merry-go-round, and we just finished a field trip with my second graders where there's a merry-go-round still, which I don't feel like you see anymore as a result of this, but we just don't allow students to be on it. That was the Rollins versus Concordia Parish School Board, when there was a group of girls on the merry-go-round, and the teacher supervising had seen that they were going too fast and had told them to slow down, and had walked over there and told them to slow down, and was distracted by some boys having kind of a scuffle playing football, so walked away, and during that 30-second period, one of the girls fell off and broke her leg, and they were claiming, negligence and lack of supervision. If this was to happen, I'm sure that our school would remove or ban all the merry-go-rounds from the playground, would train and retrain students and staff on proper use of all of our equipment, Probably rewrite, but for sure review some of our playground rules and hire more supervisors or adjust our schedules to allow us to be out there in addition to our lunch. For sure, lunch. Lunch is a big deal at our school. Hard to find supervision and a lot of kids at one time. That's probably all schools. Proactively, though, if I was an administrator, I would do whatever I could to ensure a proper supervisor to student ratio. If that means adjusting schedules or increasing pay, one thing that I've already done as one of our district leaders is help implement for our high school leadership class kids to come over and be on the playground at lunch. First of all, it was to model sportsmanship and help with some of the minor issues that could be prevented, but also I think it could prevent a lot of these type of issues as well. So that has been implemented this year, and I'm really proud of that. I would hold the supervisors accountable for being more active on the playground. What I mean by that is not standing around chatting, messing around on your phone. It's easy to get distracted, but walking around, communicating, talking, being a part of the games, whatever you can do to be aware and hold yourself accountable. And limit the number of students on the equipment. That needs to happen at my school. It needs to happen at most schools because that's where a lot of these incidences probably occur. Yes, kids will be kids ethically. If there's a foreseeable danger, stop it early. It is impossible to be everywhere at one time, but it is possible to increase our supervision and safeguard our playground. Go over the rules and model how to properly use it. Don't just talk about it, especially with these young kids, and do it more than once a year. I'm guilty of that. The third case was really disturbing, pretty complex, boils down to a freshman being hazed, harassed by upperclassmen at a 3-day sports camp sexually. Chose this. My brother-in-law, who is a coach, was involved in something similar where there was an upperclassman and a freshman, and after the season, the freshman had reported sexual harassment, and so this spoke to me. That was the Roe versus Gustine Unified School District. Something like this is pretty serious. I do believe our school would put the employees on paid leave. During an investigation, they would consult and visit with all student witnesses, and they would immediately review athletic policies and procedures. As far as if I was an administrator, I would prohibit, if not strongly discourage, staff from having overnight camps if at all possible, just because that increases your occurrences. Hold coaches accountable for being present in all reasonable areas and at reasonable times. And I know that's hard. I've been a coach before, but for example, if there would have been a coach within earshot in this locker room, not in the shower, but in this locker room to just hear what was going on, this wouldn't have happened. Train students on how to properly report and prevent incidences. This child did not report this until after the camp, and it wasn't even reported actually that the assistant coach had overheard the kids talking about it, and that's the one that took action. Also, if the student would have had a little bit of training coming in about hazing and things like this, maybe he would not have put himself in the position either, being alone, things like that. Train coaches on appropriate ways to prevent and respond to reports of harassment and hazing. Coaches have a lot of power. Kids believe in what they say, especially in good programs, and if it's strongly discouraged and students are held accountable, I believe it will be greatly reduced. So yeah, ethically holding camps overnight, probably just not a good thing all around. If a sports camp does require it overnight, coaches should be present, aware, and supported by other professionals to meet the demands. Say, the coaches could be there, but maybe they need to bring in more adults for things like this, especially where the coaches can't be everywhere at once. Accountability for any minor hazing can prevent more major hazing. But build relationships. Build them with your students, your staff, your athletes, to where they feel trusted and supported, where they can talk to you and they don't feel like they'll be punished or teased, especially in sports such as football, where it's kind of a common knowledge. I think that, complaining makes you a weaker person, is kind of the feeling I always had gotten at one point. Case 4, Boone versus Reese. This is where a boy in gym class had a heart condition, and the teacher had the students running, and he had reported that he could not do that based on his heart condition, so that the teacher, as usual, said that you may walk a few laps around the gym, and the student refused to do this, and there was some words, and it seems like it got a little heated, and the PE coach had walked over and grabbed the student's arm, where the student claimed that he had shoved him up against the wall, and the teacher said he just had grabbed him by the hand. So either way, if this was to happen in our building, again, depending on the severity of the report, the employee would be investigated or on paid leave. All student witnesses would be consulted, and so would attorneys. And our school would review all discipline policies and rules in our district and building handbook with students and staff proactively. I would prohibit staff from using any names. Oh, that's something else I want to mention. In this case, the teacher was accused of calling him heart attack and just different names, almost teasing him, which is ethically not right at all. So prohibit all staff from using any names other than the student's first or last name. This happens a lot, and you just kind of joke about it, or it's informal, but it's really a serious deal. Establish a clear and consistent discipline process. Clear and consistent, meaning the language is similar, the steps are similar and expected, and encourage multiple professionals to handle difficult situations. So if that was getting heated, maybe that teacher could have, grabbed a teacher next door, so there could have been another witness. If he was angry, had another teacher step in and help. Sometimes that's difficult, but sometimes that can prevent situations like this. So, it's a fine line. Students need to feel free to learn in a risk-free environment without fear of harm and embarrassment, but staff should also feel free to educate and discipline kids within reason and compliance with policy to protect their students and their learning environment. Sometimes you protect a student from themselves too. So, training, MANT training, things like that, that can help prevent these things. The last case is Ketchum versus Newport Mesa Unified School District. I just lost in my head what that one was about. Yes, on the Ketchum versus Newport Mesa Unified School District, this is where there was a girl who had felt like her school district had, created an unwelcoming environment that was not accepting of her sexual orientation. There were some comments made on the school district's the high school webpage, where she was called names. So as far as our school, if this was to happen, the employee documentation would be requested. We are encouraged, which we should be, to document any cases of this and how we handled it, interview all the involved parties and investigate it, and review the discipline policies and rules, again, in our district, in our building handbook with students and staff, especially regarding cyberbullying. I would provide training and professional development to staff on discrimination, again, what it is and how to prevent it. Establish clear and consistent reporting and discipline processes. Identify professionals for students and encourage them to communicate concerns before it gets to this point, and protect and secure all internet activity to discourage comments to be made freely under the school's name. That concerned me, that students were able to get onto the school page and make comments like that. Ethically, schools should be safe and accepting for all students. Students being bullied in person or via the web should feel confident that the school will do everything in their power to stop the physical and emotional harm. Students and parents should be notified and given all the appropriate detail of how the situation is being handled, or report the case. If they can't handle it, move that on. So a lot to talk about, and I appreciate it. My resources are here that I used, and good luck rest of the class, guys.